Hello and welcome, Horror Diaries Official. Today, the story is about Slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse is a scary true story about a place in Marlborough, New Jersey that is rumored to be the site of a horrible murder. Years ago, the slaughterhouse was part of a large farm which was owned by a man named Mr. Allen. The farm was over 500 acres and had been in his family for generations. The state government decided to build a psychiatric hospital in the area, and they chose Mr. Allen's farm as the location where they would build. The only problem was that Mr. Allen refused to sell his land. This did not stop the government, and they seized the land, forcing the poor farmer off of his own property. This essentially robbed the man of his livelihood because without his land he was unemployed. In 1933, construction of the Marlborough Sanitarium was completed. It was just a mental hospital containing many buildings and over 1,300 mental patients and staff. The old farm buildings were abandoned and left to fall into ruin. Having lost everything he owned, Mr. Allen began to lose his mind as well. He was often spotted wandering aimlessly around the hospital grounds at night, muttering to himself. He kept trying to get back into his old house and began stalking and threatening the hospital staff. He got crazier and crazier, and his behavior became worse and worse. Eventually, Mr. Allen was arrested and evaluated. He was found to be insane, and the government had him committed to a mental hospital. The Marlborough Psychiatric Hospital, ironically, he was locked away in the same mental hospital that he had taken his land and driven him crazy in the first place. The farmer spent many years at the asylum, keeping pretty much to himself because he had been a farmer. Mr. Allen was allowed to do odd jobs around the hospital grounds, cutting grass, tending to plants, and so on. One day he escaped and was never seen or heard from again. A massive manhunt ensued, but after several weeks of searching, there was still no sign of him. After his disappearance, the hospital staff began hearing mysterious noises at night. The noises sounded animals squalling, and they were coming from the broken down remains of the old slaughterhouse building. The squalls were so loud that they disturbed the mental patients, and many inmates had to be restrained or sedated at night to keep them from totally freaking out. The hospital staff hired a security guard to patrol the grounds. One night, the guard was doing his rounds when he found messages written in animal blood on the wall of the old slaughterhouse. The messages read, "I see you, and tonight all will die." The guard returned to the hospital and reported what he had found. Then he went back out on his rounds. By morning, when the hospital had failed to receive any further reports from the security guard, some of the staff went out to check the slaughterhouse. They called out the security guard's name, but there was no answer. Then they decided to open the huge steel door of the slaughterhouse meat freezer. When they laid eyes on the grisly spectacle that lay within, some of them fled in terror, and others threw up on the spot. Hanging from a hook was the blood-soaked body of the security guard. He was still wearing his uniform, but he had been decapitated. On his shoulders, someone had placed several heads of a pig. The murderer was never caught, by everybody in the area suspected that it was Mr. Allen. The crazy farmer was never heard from again, but according to the legend, his ghost still roams the grounds in search of trespassers. Some say that he sits in the attic of the old slaughterhouse at night, staring out over his land through a hole in the crumbling roof. People who live close to the old farm still hear the faint sound of squalling animals coming from the ruins of the slaughterhouse. In 1998, the mental hospital was investigated and closed down by the authorities due to patient abuse. Sometime around 2004, the slaughterhouse was demolished, and all that remains today is rubble. Note: you should not try to visit the site of the old slaughterhouse because the area is patrolled by security and police. Trespassers are prosecuted if caught. Another reason not to go there is that you don't want to run into old farmer Allen. You could end up hanging headless from one meat hook. Human bones. Human bones is a strange story from Japan about a man who passes through a small village and meeting a weird old woman in an abandoned house. There was a village in Japan where the population was very small. A lot of people had left the village and many of the houses were abandoned. One snowy day, a traveler came to his village looking for shelter. He saw what appeared to be an empty house, but when he went inside, he was surprised to find an old woman standing there. The old woman told him to go up to the first floor, and she followed behind him. When he reached the top of the stairs and turned around, she had disappeared. He walked back down the stairs and saw that the old woman was standing in the exact spot she had been when he entered, except now she was holding a sharp stick in her hand. The man was very spooked by his ran to the front door, but when he tried to pull it open, he found that it was locked. He turned to find the old man standing right beside him. She grabbed hold of his arm. In the darkness, he hadn't noticed how pale she looked, but now that she was so close, he could see that her skin seemed to be rotting. She looked dead. The old woman squeezed his arm and hissed, "Listen to me. Under this house lie 13 bodies. Give them peace. If not, I will kill you." After she uttered these words, the man began to feel dizzy and collapsed to the floor. When he woke up, he had no idea how much time had elapsed. He began to doubt himself. Perhaps he had dreamed the whole thing. He was about to leave when he noticed a mat in the middle of the room where the old woman had been standing. There was a dark red stain on it. He pulled back the mat and found it was covering a large hole in the floorboards. Looking into the hole, he saw human bones neatly arranged underneath. The bones of 14 bodies were lying there. Why did she say 13? He murmured to himself. Perhaps the 14th set of human bones belonged to the old woman. The traveler went outside and told some of the villagers what had happened. When he brought them back to the empty house, they looked down into the hole and saw the floorboards. The old woman's bones were not there anymore. Afterwards, the villagers demolished the old house and built a shrine there instead. Inside the shrine, they placed the bloody stained mat so that people could offer prayers to the dead. The traveler and the villagers who discovered the dead bodies all died soon after the incident. This is a scary story I heard from one of my teachers at school. The teacher who told me this story said he was from the same village. I can't remember the exact name of the village, as it was such a long time ago when I heard it